everybody, and welcome to another episode of Pitch Jam Talks. I'm your host, Joseph Knoop. All throughout the weekend of August 15th and 16th, I'm here with Jordan Miner, Junior Software Analyst from PC Magazine. Jordan, how are you, man?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. So, hey, tell me a bit about what you kind of do for PC Magazine and what your experience has been there so far.
So I'm on the software team that covers pretty much anything that's not a physical object. So we cover a lot of apps and programs and like web services and a lot of like business software these days, and like security. So I write a lot about like viruses and hacks and stuff. But I also get to cover a lot of game stuff because games are software. So these days I'm doing a video show every week covering a cool iPhone game. Whenever there's like a kind of a press event in the city, I'll head out to that. Like there was a Hitman event recently. I checked out that game. There's a Namco thing. They had Dark Souls 3. But I kind of get to do a lot of everything. I also reviewed Apple Music recently. So yes, software. It's a broad category.
Awesome. Yeah, no, and that sounds like it's got a lot of opportunities for kind of like not getting tired of what you're covering since you're covering such diverse stuff, right?
Oh, totally. And since we're kind of a big team, and we're all kind of reading each other's stuff, so even if I'm not like writing the Windows 10 review, I still get to edit it at some point. So everyone's kind of like, is touching everything.
Cool. So how did you really find yourself in that position at PC Magazine? Did you do freelancing for a period of time before that? I know actually you and myself now at this point are Good Games Writing Pitch Jam quote unquote alumni. So I'm kind of curious how you jumped from participating in an event for up and comers to now being a staff writer at a large magazine.
Well, it's kind of not fair because I had a lot of help. So I went to Northwestern University in Chicago. Their journalism program, Medill, is very well renowned, and they do as part of just a part of majoring in journalism there is that for a semester we're on the quarter system, but it's like a semester. The school sets up an internship for you at places that they think are a good fit. So they set me up at PC Mag in the fall of 2013. I was there for a few months, and I guess I made a good impression on the rest of the staff because then, like a year later, a few months after I graduated like a year ago. So a few months ago, I got an email from the editor saying, "Hey, we're hiring for this position. We think you'd be a good fit. We already know you. We've already worked with you. Why don't you come interview?" I interviewed, and they hired me. So.
Great. No, and that sounds like it's always a weird mix between people who actually got kind of an educational background and people who kind of just fell into it in another aspect. I know some people just go straight into writing and kind of bungle their way through. So tell me a bit about what kind of your experiences were writing at first and kind of making your own fair share of mistakes and kind of the stuff that maybe didn't seem too obvious to you as you were starting out, but now is super obvious points of writing strength.
Well, I feel fortunate that this is something I was pretty sure I wanted to do like pretty early. So I started kind of messing around like kind of middle high school, early high school, and writing for like just free website. Like you want to kind of get all your bad writing out of the way. So you do it for like if you're already not getting paid, that's kind of a great place to kind of like test stuff and try stuff and mess stuff up. So I'm sure a lot of those posts on that site are really bad, but it was still a good experience, and there's still something to be gained from that.
So I mean, like what are kind of some of the lessons or kind of the techniques that you learned along the way that maybe just seem in retrospect really, really obvious, but as you were starting out, we're just like, wow, I can't believe no one wants to have like a 2,000 word feature piece from a newcomer, right?
I guess one of the things, I guess this is something I've seen a lot of the pitches I've been looking at. Like, you get a lot of people who want to do this that clearly know a lot about games, but they aren't always the best at like either communicating that knowledge or honing that knowledge down to some sort of clear point. So I'm sure a lot of stuff I was doing initially was just me writing about games and kind of really like I just have all this knowledge. I just want to get on the page. I don't really care if it's like interesting to read or it's something anyone would be interested in. So it's taking that passion and kind of making, and because like all writing is argument. Like all writing is trying to convince somebody of something. It's not enough to just know something. You kind of have to sell it.
So what are some of the like lessons that you might have learned specifically with PC Magazine something is like, because yeah, you do a fair amount of tech side stuff. Is that something that maybe people looking to diversify their content or like really make it look unique to an editor ought to approach something much more diverse like that?
Oh, totally. It doesn't even have to be tech necessarily. Like the idea of being a games person at not necessarily a games focused site, it's probably a good idea. Like, it seems like a lot of people these days are writing for Playboy of all places. So, uh, yeah. Um, and it's just good to know how to write about other things anyway, because then that's something that you can bring back into your games writing to help you stand out, like when you're pitching to games places. So I'm sure like games websites are used to hearing pitches on like the same kinds of topics a lot, like that are popular within game spaces. But if someone has something from outside of that space that they can talk about, then that's something that kind of makes them stand out. And that could be like a political thing or a social or cultural thing, or just some sort of like just arcane knowledge you have. Like a feature I pitched. I'm kind of interested in like animation. So when the Lego Movie came out, I was like, there's. I wonder if there's any kind of commonality between like the Lego Movie, like the Lego Movie's sense of humor, in some ways reminded me of what they're doing in the Lego games. So I was wondering if there's any sort of like like if there was any sort of shared knowledge there. And I was able to talk to people from Animal Logic, the studio that animated the Lego Movie, and the people at TT Games who do all the Lego games. And it turns out that they had talked to each other, and that there was shared knowledge there. So that was just a subject that I was interested in, and I reported on that.
Cool. Cool. Now, I've heard so many editors say that when it comes to kind of like having an application for a games writing job, or even just proving yourself for like one particular freelance pitch, uh, having that level of diversity in your content really helps to show that you can one that you can be a jack of all trades, but that there are two or three things that you are an ace at. I've talked before about. I've heard many editors in the industry say that if a younger writer has an esports beat locked down, they're already leagues above some other applicants because it's something that many outlets don't currently have locked down themselves yet. And slowly we're getting more and more to a point where places like Red Bull, uh, Polygon, I think to a degree, and plenty of other places are getting that diverse content more locked down. So it's now is the perfect time to jump in and say, no, I'm the person you want for this. So kind of curious from your perspective now as a staff writer, which for a lot of game journalism hopefuls is kind of that penultimate goal, if not the ultimate goal. Being paid 40 hours a week to do this.
Not only that, health insurance.
Health insurance, yeah, dental, baby. I'm kind of curious, like, to you, what makes a story ultimately worth publishing?
Well, we don't really work with freelancers too often, since we have kind of a big staff. So I'm not really doing a lot of I'm not really commissioning pieces. But I guess when we're kind of pitching stuff amongst ourselves, um, I mean, it's really just the nature. Every site is going to have a kind of a different goal for what it wants to be. So like with us, we're very product oriented. So we're doing stuff that's like we're doing less like kind of featurey kind of interview stuff and more stuff about like reviews are a huge focus for us. And the features we do write are like explain our features about some sort of new technology. Um, and the news are just kind of like short blog posts about things that's in the news. Um, but I guess when I was freelancing, I was kind of doing more like interview stuff. Um, and I guess when I was like trying to figure out which of my own ideas I felt were the strongest, um, it's just the one I think that had the most like clear focus. That was like it's very obvious what this story is going to be. That I have a clear idea of what this story is going to be, and then that will come across well to editors and readers.
I think it's true. One of the things that I've been telling every pitch jam submission is just tell me why does this story matter. Assume nothing. Assume I know nothing, and that's actually been one of the things that's helped me in my writing with Playboy is kind of assuming my audience knows next to nothing about what I'm trying to communicate to them. So for a review I published with Playboy, I actually had to give it to my almost 60-year-old father of all people and tell him, hey, what about this doesn't make sense to you? Because I'm not writing for a gaming centric audience. I'm writing for a broad audience. Or even with a much more specific outlet, asking yourself, why does this story about an esports team matter? What makes them different, or what makes your opinion different than someone else who they could probably just grab from the next room in their office, right? I've been kind of pimping out one article by a friend of mine. Do you know Laura Kate? Yeah, excellent writer, rising star as far as I'm concerned. In the world of game journalism, she does a podcast with Jim Sterling and everything. And one of my favorite pieces of hers was talking about Life is Strange. I think it was the second episode where you deal with the suicide of a friend of the main character, or the potential suicide of the main character's friend, and she delved really deeply into this actual personal experience that she had that was mirrored by her experience of the game, and because she was unable to stop this tragic event from happening. And so that to me was the story that like no one else obviously could have told, and only she had the voice, perfect for it. And so when I get a pitch that says, "Let me tell you why I think it's interesting that these amiibo trading cards or this esports team is really cool, and why they're the first one to make me really care," is like, okay, it's great that you have an opinion, but why does your opinion matter more than someone on my staff or some other freelancer who might have years of rapport with the editor you're talking to, right?
Hmm. Yeah, I kind of hope that that sort of approach finds its way to video eventually too, because like, especially if you're talking about things that kind of make applicants stand out, like especially if you're going for staff jobs, like you have to know how to be on video. Like I had done I was writing for like an iPhone website before this, and I'd started messing around with video, and then when I got to PC Mag, like the second week, like, hey, we're putting you in front of a camera, like read off this teleprompter, like you're doing this now because we all have to do this now, and I wish I'd had more experience doing that. But like so much video stuff now is like this kind of teleprompter stuff, or the let's plays I feel are just very kind of surface level reactions. So yeah, if people can find a way to kind of bring that like more personal perspective and kind of just into like video essays almost, I think that could be a neat way to kind of have the strengths of both of those two mediums.
We had someone using the Pitch Jam hashtag on Twitter, and anyone listening, please feel free to use the hashtag to ask any questions of our panelists or editors who are paying attention. We had someone ask like, what's the best kind of video content to pitch, and I've always been of the idea that a series, maybe short, maybe long, that has a common kind of theme, but possibly approaching different material each week. So like Movie Bob's Big Picture, or Jim Sterling, does the Jimquisition. He's talking about a topic from his point of view, but you kind of know what to expect going in every time. Let's plays are definitely not something I would ever think to pitch to to an outlet, because they work so much better on your terms than on any publisher's terms, because what does their audience owe to some random yokel wanting to do a PewDiePie impression on their paid website? So I've always thought it's just like a regular writing pitch. It's always good to go into a video pitch with an idea, an angle, and some sort of consistent theme that you're tackling throughout the weeks, maybe from just different perspectives or from different video games. But yeah, other than that, any other things that you notice from Pitch Jam participants that you might want to give some advice to them as they kind of move forward out of Pitch Jam? I know plenty of them are kind of pulling their collars, stressing about how badly they did, or how much we're going to tear into them, and that's perfectly okay. It's good to be nervous, but it's not good to like let that override your ability to just make the pitch and learn from it. So I'm kind of curious, like, what you've learned over the last 24 hours from all these people.
Well, I still have a few more to look at, but it's kind of like I was saying earlier. Like the pitches I've seen that I've liked are the ones that just made a very clear argument, and that's like that the pitch itself was able to convince me of the point it was trying to make, and then it gave me faith in the writer that they would be able to bring even more evidence in the final article. That they clearly know what they're talking about, because that's what editors want. They want people who know what they're doing, so that they're easy to work with.
Yeah, no, it's always good to appear professional, and to just even if you don't necessarily know exactly what you're talking about, fake it till you make it, and then follow through. Always follow through. I know the editor at Playboy right now is kind of very perturbed by the fact that like he's had numerous people drop on him from pitches that he accepted, and I cannot fathom. Yeah, I like you made it. You got it. You got the pitch accepted, and you're golden. Why would you drop that and then bust up a relationship that could have really worked for you? But yeah, Jordan, I think that may be it for this episode of Pitch Jam Talks. Feel free to let the people know where they can find your work and where they can find you on the social medias.
Sure. So I'm Jordan Miner. Jordan, like that famous basketball playing man, and then Miner, like a child. My Twitter handle is Jordan W. Miner. That's where I post a lot of my stuff and make weird jokes about the Insane Clown Posse. You can also find me on PC Mag. I do a video show every week. It's called Games to Go. It's about cool iPhone games. It's on YouTube. And that's pretty much all the channels.
Awesome. And yeah, folks, you can always follow Good Games Writing on Twitter at GoodWritingVG, or you can always go to goodgameswriting.com, and you can follow me at Joseph Knoop. That's JOSEPHKNOOP. This has been another episode of Pitch Jam Talks, and stay tuned. We've got, I believe, at least one more, and it's going to be kind of a surprise guest, a very, very well-loved editor in the industry, so I'm excited for that. Stay tuned. Thanks, everybody.